Well, today, what I'm looking at is a different kind of portable phonograph. You can probably tell just by looking at it, there's something a little different about this one. Most portable phonographs will have corner protectors, but generally, like the VV50 does, but generally they won't be an iron-bound box. Here's a hint. The original color of this one was olive drab. This is a World War II vintage portable phonograph. Heavy, thick leather handle, extremely strong case. This was made to take some serious banging around. Mechanically, it's pretty generic. Shares a lot of parts with your Silver Tones, Emersons, RCAs, and all of those. And let's take a look under the lid. It actually does have a pretty good size horn. Now, a lot of these later era portables can have pretty rudimentary sort of horns, very small, abbreviated type affairs. Now, this is, cardboard, basically, paperboard, and it's stapled together, but it is a long horn. You can see it starts over here, and it's fully enclosed, and goes all the way around here. That's actually about the same size as one you'd find in the 255 or something like that. It's pretty big. I haven't heard it play yet because the reproducer on this thing was in 10,000 pieces. Pot metal fell apart, but I will be able to source one somewhere. Now, the challenge on this one really is going to be basically paint removal. Somebody painted it black, took it all apart, because you can see they painted the inside black too. Why they felt the need to do that is beyond me. I don't know. Olive drab paint is available and generally cheap. But I want this olive drab again. I want the military stencils back on it, so all of that black paint is going to have to come off of there. That'll be a, late spring or summertime project when I can work outdoors and just scrape all that crap off of there. Okay, let's take a look at the motor. I have the motor board here, and it's out. Let's take a look here. Now, first, look up here. This is your typical Tonearm of this era. They all kind of look the same. You'll see these on lots of machines. Again, RCAs and birch and other ones. This is pot metal. Later ones were actually plastic. Once you get up towards the 60s, they turn to plastic. This one has a little extra spring on here to sort of help the weight of the reproducer. A heavy reproducer, on the 40s type records can eventually damage them. That gives it a little bit of makes the heavy reproducer a little bit lighter. This one has ball bearing race in here. See, this is not just pot metal to pot metal. There's a metal race in there, ball bearings, so it's not stuck. It turns nice and evenly. Some of these are so cheaply made that it's just pot metal into pot metal. Both parts swell, and then the whole thing locks up, and you have to try to take it apart and sand it down and file it and all of that nonsense, and it rarely works out well. You end up having to try to find another one, which is easy enough to do, I guess. This one, at least, is not riveted. It's all screws holding the parts down. And like I said, these are generic parts. You'll find these on pretty much any of the portables of this era made in America. Your typical, your needle tin over here, and the speed control all kind of looks the same. And we'll take a look at the motor. The motor's a little bit more involved than your average, excuse me. It is, who made it? General Industries. Here's General Industries. They made lots of small phonograph motors during this time period. This one is not as cheap as some of the later ones. You can see it has a cast iron base. It's pillar and plate, but it's cast iron base with a pressed steel top. It has two small springs, much like the Swiss motors do. And a massive, really massive, see if I get a good look at it. There you go. A massive double fiber gear. That's one big fiber gear in there, top gear and bottom. The rest of the gears are steel, but that one is fiber, and it's in good shape. It's not the least bit worn that I can see. It has a nice, it's a 3-weight governor on here, typical style. Everything's screwed together. It's repairable. Some of the later ones were not. It's not particularly easy anyway. It has conventional style governor bearings, just like the Victor used. With screws holding the bearings in, so they're adjustable. Decent motor, a very decent motor in this one. Not nearly as cheap as they made them later on. You start seeing stuff like this, pressed steel clips and stuff to hold it together, but at least the rest of it is screwed. It's screwed together. And, you know, it's not too bad. This is a fully serviceable motor. You could take this apart easily, clean everything, put it back together. And it worked. There's actually nothing wrong with this motor the way it is. It's working fine. It's not even thumping and bumping. Although eventually I will take it apart, clean the springs, or at least check to see if they need cleaning. Somebody might have done it already. Yeah, everything seems to be an adjustment. It's in good condition. And there's no grease on the fiber gear. You can see that fiber gear is dry. There's no grease on there, as there should not be. Let's turn this over here for a second, and I'll show you the crank handle, which I kind of like how they did it. Oops. Okay. A little bit heavy. Big piece of wood. Okay. One thing you always know in a military phonograph, chained. They chain the winding handle on there. That goes right in there. Feel it connects like that. And we have the turntable, excuse me. Also a conventional type. This is the style typical of this era. With, I guess what they did was they sprayed glue onto the metal and kind of threw felt at it, felt dust. So it's fuzzy. But as you can tell, it is fairly generic. But typical for a military phonograph. And what I will do with this is I will strip the paint off it, paint it olive drab, put the military stencils back on it, and this will eventually end up in my M37. That's a Dodge Power Wagon in disguise. And there you go. A look at an iron-bound old military phonograph.